finishing Halloween was a massive confidence boost. And as soon as I finished it, I knew I could write a song, and that was a huge mental block. Trying to come to terms with the idea of playing all the instruments, recording it, and producing it, and really bringing it all together as a coherent piece of music. So it was time to get on to the next song, and this song was called Sphinx. And it was pretty clear where Steve was getting his inspiration for this song. It was definitely the Iron Maiden Powerslave album. Now, Halloween drew strongly on the Iron Maiden Number of the Beast album, with a bit of an influence from Michael Jackson's Thriller in some of the more kind of tongue-in-cheek parts. But this one was 100% Powerslave. And the two songs on that album that really influenced it was the title track, Powerslave, but also Rime of the Ancient Mariner. That played a critical part in the bass line that comes in during the bridge section. Now, this track also started with the drums. It was another one of the pre-recorded drum tracks from the early Riot CD, and on the original track, I was never happy with it. Because what you get in these tracks is you get an intro, you get a verse, you'll get a chorus, probably some kind of bridge section, and then an outro. And what you basically do is you chop the track up into each of those constituent parts and then reassemble it on the timeline. Now, the mistake I made was when I zoom in, when I did the original track, I actually cut the track right on the bar line. That doesn't really work here, because there's a massive cymbal crash that comes in on the very last beat of each of the sections. And if you cut right on the bar line, you miss that cymbal ringing into the next bar. So the mistake I made with the original mix was not allowing that cymbal to run into the next bar and then editing it so that there was a bit of overlap between the previous bar and the new bar. In this version, I've done that properly. So let's just listen to the intro of the drum part. So you can hear the cymbal there actually carries over into the end of the bar. It becomes more pronounced as you get near the end of the verse section. So one of the big challenges I had with this track was I had to go back. Before I started the remix, I literally had to go back and completely re-edit this drum part. And that took me absolutely ages to get right. But the new drum track is just really tight and it sits really, really nicely in the mix. So after re-editing the drum track, I had a close listen back to the bass part, and I have to say I wasn't that impressed. Let me just play it back to you and you'll hear why. It's just too muddy. I wanted the bass to be a bit more clearer and kind of punch through in rhythm with the drums. Now what I'm doing there is it's kind of a machine gun bass. It's kind of bass in the style of Lemmy and Motorhead. So listening back to that, I thought that's not what I want. It's too rough-edged a sound. So I went back to first principles and decided that I wanted to use this bass, which is my Music Man Stingray, but with a clean amplifier rather than a dirty amplifier. So the amp I used was a Gallien-Kruger clean amp. And I don't actually have one of these amps. My bass guitar is plugged straight into this console, and inside it I have a digital emulation of a Gallien-Kruger amplifier. The other thing I changed was the rhythm. I decided to use a gallop. Now Steve Harris, who plays with Iron Maiden, uses like a fast two-fingered gallop pace. Now my finger style is nowhere near fast enough to do that, but I'm going to use the same style, but I'm going to use a pick. But what's better than a good bass part? two good bass parts. So the second bass I'm using is my Sire Marcus Miller, and it's basically modelled on a Fender jazz bass. It's got a completely different sound. And again, I've run this, not through the Gallion-Kruger amplifier, I've run this bass through an Ampeg. So we blend the two. We get the clean sound from the Gallion-Kruger and we get the dirty sound from the jazz bass and the Ampeg. It gives us a really nice blended sound. I really like that blended bass sound, and I effectively recorded the entire bass track again using those two different bass sounds. The left-hand guitar was originally recorded using an Ibanez Gem guitar. It's a Steve Vai signature model, and I mean, Steve Vai is one of the most technically gifted guitarists on the planet. He's also what can be described as a true virtuoso. It was almost like I had a mental picture of what would Iron Maiden sound like if Steve Vai was playing guitar for them. This is the guitar that I've used in the 2021 remix. Alongside the original Gem, this is a Suhr, and it's very similar configuration to the Gem. Humbucker, single coil humbucker, 24 fret, very, very fast neck. I absolutely love this guitar. It's just beautiful to look at and even better to play. An E power chord. Then an ultra fast riff, very similar to how Steve Vai would play. Then another riff up into the C chord. Two quick descending runs, finishing on an A, then bending up into a B, and then using the whammy bar to kind of depress it back and down from the A to the B again. So it kind of announces that there's going to be quite a lot of guitar pyrotechnics going on in this left-hand channel. The guitar I'm using for the right-hand channel is a PRS McCarty 594. Very similar to the traditional McCarty that I used in the original recording. The right-hand guitar is a lot more restrained in terms of what it's doing. It's kind of playing the support role to the flashy guitar in the left-hand channel. I'm effectively riffing around just a number of power chords. So in the A shape, I'm riffing around the C, the D, an E. There's also an F sharp and a G. And using the E shape, there's a G and an F sharp. And effectively, that's all the chords that are used in this, and they're all standard bar chords, so very, very easy to play. The verse is a lot more subdued. It's really just playing power chords, and it's quite a simple sequence. E power chord up to a C5 over G power chord up to an A5 over D power chord, and then there's an E G pull off back to an E power chord. This guitar is basically chugging away. So it's chugging away on the E chord. And it goes down to a C power chord. But I actually put in a suspended second there as well. to the D with a similar type of technique. Steve Donaldson wrote an absolutely fabulous set of lyrics for Sphinx. At the dawn of creation, the sentinel stands with a watchful gaze, surrounded by the majesty, the Sphinx enshrined by the Arton's rays. I mean, what an opening section for a song. What I had to do was to write a really good lyric melody and deliver a performance that was worthy of those lyrics.
Dawn of creation, the sentinel stands with a watchful gaze, surrounded by the majesty of our Sphinx, enshrined by the Arton's rays. Aware of one's own beauty, conquerors of this wondrous land, have come in worship full of admiration and praise.
Now the next section is the bridge, which is the kind of hook of the song. And it uses a similar Steve Harris technique, but this time it's playing arpeggios, but much, much higher up the neck. This is taken from a song called The Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, and it kind of sounds a bit like this. A C suspended second and a D suspended fourth. Now, a C suspended second has a D in it. So when you move to the D, there's a common note between the two chords, and that works. Then when you play the D suspended fourth, it has a G in it, which is a note that's also in the C chord. So there's this commonality of notes between the two chords that you're changing some notes but not changing others. And that is really pleasing to the ear. So what the left-hand guitar part is doing is really riffing around small parts of those particular chords, using a slightly less distorted guitar sound on the amplifier with a really lush chorus and delay, which just gives it this huge width and depth. This guitar is playing a full C suspended second chord. Then it moves up to a D suspended fourth to a D power chord. It's quite a stretch to get that power chord for the final part of that. Now, put it all together. It's revealed that the Sphinx is actually an evil spirit, and it's an evil spirit that's taking over the mind of the Pharaoh, initially through his dreams. So the bridge is really all about building some tension into the song, and I wanted the bridge to start quiet, build the tension, and then lead into a really powerful chorus. And this is what it sounds like.
But within the Sphinx lurks a demon behind that controls the gods and competes for our mind.
The left-hand guitar in the chorus really freaks out. There's chords, but chords interdispersed with these really fast runs. Again, this guitar is riffing around with the power chords. It goes something like this. Now, the the chorus presented me with a bit of a dilemma, because the original line in the chorus was, "Look to me, the true ruler of this plateau. I alone have the power to control by inspiring the dreams of your pharaoh." I couldn't really build a compelling chorus the way the lyrics were currently written, so I changed them a little bit. I repeated certain words to expand the lyric lines so that it was long enough to do a standard 8-bar chorus. So I changed it to "Look to me, look to me." So really emphasizing the fact that this spirit wants to be the focus of an entire nation, but also wants to control that nation. And then I did the same thing again, "Look to me, look to me," by driving the invaders from our land and cutting our enemies down. So this spirit is kind of, it's not just about control, it's about domination and, you know, bloodshed and goodness knows what else.
Look to me, look to me, the true ruler of this plateau. I alone have the power to control by inspiring the dreams of your pharaoh. Look to me, look to me, to protect the double crown by driving the invaders from our lands and cutting our enemies down.
But as it got into the guitar solo, I'd kind of built it up at the end of the chorus before the solo, but I wanted something to really bring home the sheer evil that's present in this spirit that inhabits the Sphinx and the Pharaoh's mind. So I thought I'd put in an evil laugh. And this was inspired by Phil Collins and the Genesis song Mama. The guitar solo is filled with Steve Vai tricks of the trade. There's actually a wah-wah pedal used all the way through this, and again, that was one of Steve Vai's sounds at that particular point in time. Left-hand guitar is kind of doing a dive bomb on a low E down to a D and back up to an E again. And all this guitar is doing is kind of picking out the chords that are sympathetic to the key we're in. So the last few verses build up even more and tell the story of how the Pharaoh has lost control of his mind, his body, and his empire to this evil spirit, and actually becomes completely resigned to the fact that he's lost. And that's how the song finishes.
But I'm not to himself consumed. I serve the Sphinx, my lord and master, never to see the dawn sunrise. I relinquish my soul without a prayer.
And obviously it leads into that big crash finale ending. So that's the story of Sphinx. All the music written by me and the lyrics written by my good friend Steve Donaldson when he was just 16 years old. Thanks for watching.